Have you ever noticed how certain people can have such a strong influence over you without saying a single word? Narcissists possess a subtle yet powerful way of controlling others. It's not always through harsh words or direct actions. Sometimes it's through the silence, the small gestures, and the unspoken cues they send. Silent manipulation is one of the most insidious forms of control, often going unnoticed until it has already deeply affected your behavior and mindset. Narcissists, in particular, excel at this subtle art, using nonverbal cues and unspoken actions to bend others to their will without uttering a word. They do not need to scream, shout, or demand to be heard. Instead, they manipulate through silence, body language, and the power of emotional cues, which often leaves their targets confused and unaware of how they've been controlled. The narcissist's ability to control through silence is a carefully crafted skill. When they stay quiet, they leave a void that you are instinctively compelled to fill. The silence doesn't just sit there, it demands your attention. And without realizing it, you begin to question everything around you. In those moments, when they are silent, your mind starts to race. You search for answers that aren't provided, trying to make sense of what is happening. Was it something you did or didn't do? Are they angry with you? Did you say something wrong? The silence holds power because it leaves room for your insecurities and doubts to take center stage. It shifts the focus from their behavior to your internal struggle, making you feel responsible for the tension. Through the manipulation of silence, narcissists also often create a situation where you feel the need to explain yourself, apologize, or defend your actions, even when nothing is wrong. This is not a coincidence. The silence can be a tool to make you question your own reality, pushing you to become overly self-aware and hypersensitive to every interaction, word, or look. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, wondering when or if the silence will break. The narcissist, meanwhile, watches quietly as you become more and more consumed by their unspoken control. The longer the silence stretches, the more disoriented and off balance you feel, reinforcing the idea that something is wrong and it's your responsibility to fix it. Another way narcissists manipulate through silence is by withdrawing their attention or affection. This is a powerful form of control because it plays on your need for validation and approval. When they are distant, you begin to question what went wrong. You crave their approval and reassurance, and their withdrawal forces you to work harder for it. The more you chase after their attention, the more they hold the power. They may throw you just enough breadcrumbs of attention or affection to keep you hooked. A smile, a compliment, a touch of approval. These moments feel like victories because they are so rare, but they leave you craving more. And just when you feel like you've earned their affection, they withdraw again, forcing you to chase after them once more. This cycle is incredibly powerful because it creates an emotional roller coaster, and you become addicted to the highs of their fleeting approval while the lows of their indifference make you work even harder. The narcissist's silence also distorts your sense of reality. Instead, they use small, nonverbal cues to make you question your own perceptions. A raised eyebrow, a slight shift in their body posture, or even a fleeting glance in the wrong direction can send you spiraling into self-doubt. You may start to question whether you really saw what you thought you saw, heard what you thought you heard, or if perhaps you were overreacting. It's as if their silence is a mirror reflecting back your insecurities, making you feel uncertain of what is true. This kind of gaslighting, where reality is manipulated through silence and subtle cues, creates a constant state of confusion. You become so focused on interpreting their every nonverbal cue that you lose track of your own feelings and thoughts. At the heart of silent manipulation is the narcissist's ability to control your emotions and reactions without directly addressing them. They don't have to yell or argue. Instead, they can make you feel guilty, anxious, or unsure of yourself simply by withholding affection using silence as a weapon. This manipulation can create a sense of power imbalance where the narcissist is always one step ahead, controlling the narrative without ever speaking a word. And because the control is so subtle, it's difficult to pinpoint when or how the manipulation began. It's not as obvious as a loud confrontation or a dramatic gesture. Instead, it seeps into your daily interactions until you find yourself completely under their influence. You may not realize the hold they have on you, until you start to notice how your behavior and emotions are shifting. The constant need for reassurance, the endless cycle of seeking their approval, the nagging feeling that something isn't quite right. All of these are signs that you've been slowly pulled into their web of silent control. And because the narcissist has never directly confronted you, you may even start to feel like the problem is within you. The constant self-questioning and emotional turmoil make you believe that you are the one at fault, while the narcissist remains in the background, silently controlling the situation. Emotional manipulation through an emotional tug-of-war is a powerful tool that narcissists use to subtly control others, often without the target realizing it. This tactic is not about overt domination or manipulation. Rather, it's a covert, emotionally draining game that tugs at your heartstrings and your sense of self-worth. The narcissist knows how to pull you in emotionally, creating a bond where you feel responsible for their feelings and reactions. By doing so, they gain control over you in ways that are often hard to identify, leaving you feeling torn and confused, unsure of where you stand and what's real. At the core of this emotional tug-of-war is the narcissist's ability to play on your empathy, compassion, and desire to be liked or loved. They understand your emotional triggers, and they use this knowledge to draw you into their emotional chaos. One moment, they might show signs of affection, vulnerability, or warmth, and the next, they withdraw completely, creating an emotional void. This push and pull dynamic leaves you constantly unsure of where you stand. You're pulled into a cycle of wanting to fix things, to make them happy, and to avoid the emotional distance or the hurtful withdrawal that might follow their mood swings. The narcissist doesn't need to say much to stir these feelings within you. Their actions, their body language, or their sudden shifts in mood are enough to create the emotional roller coaster. The narcissist has mastered the art of showing just enough affection or approval to keep you emotionally invested. This can be through a compliment, a brief moment of tenderness, or a gesture of attention that feels genuine, but it's always fleeting. It's never enough to fill you up, and it never lasts long enough to make you feel secure. When the narcissist offers these crumbs of emotional validation, it feels like a victory, but it is ultimately hollow. The moment you think you've earned their affection, it disappears again, often replaced by coldness, indifference, or silence. This inconsistent behavior creates an emotional pendulum that swings back and forth, leaving you constantly chasing the highs of their approval while dreading the lows of their emotional distance. The emotional tug-of-war also plays on your sense of responsibility for their feelings. Narcissists are skilled at making you feel like you are the one who must make everything better. They'll often express dissatisfaction or emotional distress, and instead of directly addressing it, they leave it up to you to figure out what went wrong. They may give you a look, a sigh, or a statement that implies you're the cause of their upset, but they rarely say it outright. You're left to internalize their mood, trying to figure out what you did or didn't do that led to their unhappiness. Over time, you begin to feel as though you are the sole caretaker of their emotions, that their emotional well-being is in your hands. This dynamic fosters a sense of guilt and obligation, making you feel responsible for their emotional state, even when there's no logical reason to do so. The narcissist uses this emotional dependence to keep you locked in a state of confusion and self-doubt. When you do everything you can to make them happy and they still pull away, you start questioning your own worth. You begin to wonder if you are doing something wrong, if you're not enough, or if there's something inherently flawed in you. This internalized self-doubt is exactly what the narcissist wants. It keeps you off balance and invested in their emotional needs rather than your own. It also keeps you in a constant state of striving for their approval, even though it is always just out of reach. The narcissist's ever-changing moods make you feel like you're walking on eggshells, not knowing what will set them off or what will make them happy. You are left in a state of constant emotional instability, unsure of how to navigate the unpredictable shifts in their behavior. Another key element of this emotional tug-of-war is the narcissist's tendency to make you feel like you owe them something emotionally. They will often perform what seems like an act of kindness or affection, but it's always with the expectation that you will reciprocate, emotionally or otherwise. The narcissist rarely gives without expecting something in return. They might do something seemingly thoughtful, like helping you with a task or offering you a compliment. But it's always a calculated move to create a sense of indebtedness. You're left feeling like you must give something back, but the terms of the emotional exchange are rarely clear, leaving you guessing and trying to please them in return. Over time, this emotional manipulation begins to erode your sense of self. You may feel as though you have no control over your emotions, constantly reacting to the narcissist's mood swings and emotional needs. You might begin to lose sight of your own emotional boundaries, becoming so focused on pleasing them that you neglect your own well-being. The constant back and forth of emotional highs and lows takes a toll on your mental. You may feel like you're on an endless treadmill of emotional responses, always reacting to their behavior instead of living in alignment with your own emotions. This emotional tug of war doesn't just drain you, it also leaves you questioning your own identity. You may begin to feel like you're losing yourself, caught in a pattern of emotional labor that gives everything from you but gives nothing in return. The narcissist's need to control your emotions through their unpredictable behavior leads to a state of emotional exhaustion, making you feel like you are constantly giving without receiving the emotional support or validation you deserve. Mastering the art of withdrawal is a powerful and subtle tactic that narcissists use to control those around them. Instead of directly confronting you or engaging in a verbal battle, they pull away emotionally, physically, or mentally. This withdrawal is not accidental, nor is it a sign of emotional difficulty. It is a deliberate and calculated move meant to regain control, assert dominance, and keep you in a constant state of emotional flux. The silence, distance, and detachment they employ leave you scrambling for answers, questioning what went wrong, and ultimately trying to fix something that may not even be broken. The narcissist's ability to withdraw with precision is one of their most effective tools of manipulation. They may not tell you that they are upset or disappointed, nor will they openly address any issues. Instead, they may become distant, quiet, or unresponsive. This sudden change in behavior can create a deep sense of confusion, making you question what you did wrong. You're left feeling unsure and uncertain, constantly trying to piece together the cause of the emotional distance. The narcissist, meanwhile, remains aloof, watching as you search for clues, almost enjoying the control they have over your emotional state. The key to their success is that the withdrawal is never permanent. They create just enough space for you to feel the sting of loss, only to return later with enough attention or affection to pull you back in. This push and pull dynamic creates a sense of emotional instability, which is exactly what the narcissist wants. They understand that by withdrawing, they can trigger a deep emotional reaction in you, making you feel desperate to regain their attention. You begin to feel like you need to earn back their favor, constantly working to fix the situation and restore the balance that was disrupted by their absence. In doing so, you become more emotionally invested in pleasing them and regaining their approval. The narcissist is aware of this dynamic and knows that by withholding affection, attention, or validation, they can make you work harder to prove your worth. The withdrawal doesn't just involve emotional detachment, it can also be physical. The narcissist might withhold physical affection, attention, or even communication, making you feel rejected or abandoned. This can be a particularly powerful form of withdrawal because it taps into your basic need for connection and intimacy. The moment they stop engaging with you in a loving or affirming way, you feel the absence deeply. Their affection may seem conditional based on your ability to keep them happy or meet their needs. When they withdraw physically, you are left in a state of longing, searching for ways to restore the connection. The longer the withdrawal lasts, the more intense your emotional reaction becomes, and the more desperate you feel to restore things to how they once were. This leaves you in a vulnerable position, constantly chasing after something that may never be truly forthcoming. Withdrawal also plays on the narcissist's ability to create a sense of emotional dependency. By withholding attention, love, or validation, they condition you to believe that your worth is tied to their approval. When they pull away, you begin to feel as though you've lost something essential, as if your emotional value is contingent upon their acknowledgement. This makes you desperate to win back their favor, And in doing so, you relinquish control over your own emotions. You become conditioned to think that you need their approval to feel good about yourself. The narcissist withdrawal becomes a method of controlling your self-esteem and emotional stability. They hold the keys to your emotional state, and you begin to feel as though you cannot function properly without their validation. This method of withdrawal is not always as obvious as it might seem. Sometimes the narcissist will withdraw in ways that are subtle and hard to pinpoint. They may simply become less engaged in conversations, stop responding to messages as quickly, or avoid initiating contact. The detachment is so gradual that it's easy to overlook at first. But over time, you begin to notice the distance between you growing. The narcissist may even act as though nothing is wrong, creating an illusion of normalcy while you are left struggling with their emotional absence. You start to wonder whether you are imagining things, questioning if they have really pulled away or if it's just your own insecurity causing you to feel disconnected. What makes this tactic so powerful is that it creates a feeling of scarcity. The narcissist understands the psychology of desire and knows that when something is withheld, it becomes more desirable. When they withdraw their attention or affection, it becomes something you chase after, something you feel compelled to work for. They may make brief returns, giving you just enough to make you think things are improving. But then, just as quickly, they withdraw again, leaving you yearning for more. The inconsistency of their behavior creates a cycle that you can't break. You feel as though you are constantly playing catch-up, striving to gain back the connection that is always just out of reach. Withdrawal is also a way for narcissists to maintain control over the dynamics of the relationship. When they pull away, they are forcing you to react. You begin to chase them, reach out to them, and try to restore the emotional connection. This puts you in a position of always reacting to their behavior while they remain the ones in control. You might start to feel like you are walking on eggshells, never sure when they will withdraw again or when you will be rewarded with their attention. This sense of unpredictability keeps you in a constant state of uncertainty and emotional imbalance, never fully knowing where you stand. In the end, the narcissist's mastery of withdrawal leaves you emotionally drained, constantly seeking validation, affection, and approval that may never come consistently. They play the role of the elusive figure, withholding what you crave most, and you find yourself stuck in a never-ending cycle of chasing after something that feels just out of reach. Their withdrawal becomes a form of control, shaping the emotional dynamics of the relationship and leaving you dependent on their approval. Projecting insecurity is a subtle yet effective tool that narcissists use to maintain control over others. By manipulating the perception of their own self-worth, they divert attention from their own vulnerabilities and flaws, shifting the focus onto the insecurities of those around them. This tactic is not just about making others feel insecure. It's about creating a situation where you feel compelled to cater to their emotional needs, validate their worth, and manage their perceptions. Narcissists do this with a calculated mix of charm, criticism, and emotional manipulation, all designed to destabilize your sense of self while enhancing their own sense of superiority. The narcissist's ability to project insecurity often comes disguised as self-doubt or emotional volatility. They might make passive-aggressive remarks about their appearance, their abilities, or their achievements, fishing for validation from others. And the underlying message is that they need constant reassurance to feel good about themselves. But this neediness is cleverly disguised as vulnerability. When they express their self-doubt, it can leave you feeling obligated to provide support, even if it means sacrificing your own emotional energy. The narcissist turns their insecurity into a weapon, using it to draw you into their world of validation seeking. They make you feel as though you are responsible for fixing their emotional turmoil, shifting the focus away from your own needs, and making you feel indebted to them. Projecting insecurity also serves to manipulate the emotions of those around them. Narcissists are keenly aware of how people react to their displays of vulnerability, and they use this to their advantage. When they present themselves as insecure, others are often compelled to offer empathy, encouragement, or validation. This dynamic shifts the power balance, making the narcissist seem fragile and in need of protection, while subtly forcing you into a position where you have to emotionally support them. The more you try to lift them up, the more they pull you down into their emotional chaos, making you feel responsible for their happiness. It's an exhausting cycle, one that leaves you emotionally drained while they continue to gain power over you. At the heart of this tactic is the narcissist's need for constant admiration and reassurance. They are deeply insecure, but they refuse to acknowledge this directly. Instead, they use indirect methods, such as playing on their perceived flaws or vulnerabilities to evoke a sense of duty in others. By projecting insecurity, they create an emotional environment where their worth is always questioned, and they can manipulate others into providing the validation they crave. This constant need for external validation is a major driver of their behavior, and it forces those around them to become emotionally entangled in their need for attention. The narcissist becomes dependent on others to reflect back their desired image, and when those around them fail to provide this affirmation, they may resort to further manipulation, withdrawing or criticizing in order to draw more attention to their emotional fragility. Projecting insecurity is also a way for the narcissist to maintain control by keeping others in a state of confusion. When they show signs of self-doubt or express vulnerability, it creates a paradox. On one hand, they seem weak and in need of support, but on the other hand, they maintain their arrogance and entitlement. This inconsistency confuses those around them, making it difficult to know how to respond. You might feel sympathy for their supposed vulnerability only to later realize that their self-doubt was a manipulation designed to make you feel responsible for their well-being. This emotional confusion destabilizes your sense of self, leaving you unsure of how to react or what to believe. The narcissist, meanwhile, watches from the sidelines as you try to navigate this emotional maze, gaining further control over your reactions and perceptions. The narcissist may also use projection as a means of deflecting blame. When they feel insecure about their actions, they may turn the tables by accusing you of being insecure or lacking in confidence. This tactic is designed to shift attention away from their flaws and place the focus on your perceived shortcomings. They may criticize your behavior or make dismissive comments about your abilities, solely undermining your sense of self-worth. This leaves you questioning whether their criticisms are valid, making you feel as though you need to change or improve to meet their standards. It's a clever form of manipulation that keeps you constantly striving to please them while they continue to maintain a facade of perfection. Narcissists also project insecurity by creating a sense of competition. They may subtly undermine your achievements, belittling your successes while inflating their own. By constantly comparing themselves to others, they create an environment where you feel as though you must always be striving for more, pushing yourself harder, or proving yourself worthy. This constant comparison fuels your insecurities as you begin to feel inadequate in the face of their inflated sense of self-importance. Even if their comments are indirect or veiled in humor, the underlying message is clear. You are not enough unless you can match or exceed their standards. This creates an emotional pressure that keeps you striving for something that may never be achievable, while the narcissist continues to feed off your efforts and emotional investment. The narcissist's skill in projecting insecurity is not about showing vulnerability to create genuine connection or intimacy. Rather, it's about maintaining control by keeping others off balance. They use their perceived weaknesses to manipulate the emotions of those around them, turning emotional vulnerability into a tool of dominance. This projection keeps you locked in a cycle of self-doubt, always questioning your own worth and abilities, while they continue to thrive on the attention and validation they extract from you. It's a deeply unhealthy dynamic, one that keeps you focused on their emotional needs while you neglect your own. In the end, the narcissist's insecurity is not about them seeking help or healing. It's about them using your emotional resources to maintain their sense of power and control. Gaslighting through nonverbal cues is a subtle and insidious form of manipulation that narcissists use to control and destabilize those around them. Unlike traditional forms of gaslighting, which rely on verbal deception and distortion of facts, nonverbal gaslighting operates through body language, facial expressions, and other unspoken behaviors. These cues are often overlooked or misinterpreted by the target, but they play a powerful role in undermining a person's perception of reality. Narcissists are skilled at using these nonverbal tactics to make you second guess your thoughts, feelings, and even your memory, creating a sense of doubt and confusion that allows them to maintain control over you. One of the most common nonverbal tactics used in gaslighting is eye contact. A narcissist may deliberately avoid making eye contact with you, making you feel ignored, dismissed, or unimportant. In other cases, they may maintain intense, piercing eye contact that is unnerving and uncomfortable, creating a feeling of dominance or intimidation. This manipulation can leave you wondering whether you've done something wrong or if your presence is unwelcome, even though the narcissist hasn't said a word. By controlling eye contact, they can send subtle messages of disapproval or superiority, forcing you to read into their unspoken signals rather than directly addressing the issue at hand. Facial expressions are another key component of nonverbal gaslighting. A narcissist can use expressions of contempt, disdain, or boredom to convey a lack of respect or emotional connection without ever uttering a word. They may smirk, roll their eyes, or raise an eyebrow in a way that communicates judgment or ridicule. These expressions are often designed to make you feel small or inadequate, reinforcing their sense of superiority while subtly undermining your self-esteem. When confronted about their behavior, they may deny the meaning behind their facial expressions, leaving you questioning whether you misinterpreted the situation or whether you were being overly sensitive. This creates a cycle of self-doubt where you start to question your own emotional responses and perceptions, further enabling the narcissist's manipulation. Another form of nonverbal gaslighting is body language. Narcissists often use physical gestures, such as crossing their arms, turning their back on you, or leaning away from you to create emotional distance or convey disinterest. These gestures can make you feel rejected or abandoned, leaving you scrambling for answers as to what you did wrong. Even when they are physically present, their body language can make you feel as though they are emotionally unavailable, creating a sense of isolation. Alternatively, they may use overly affectionate or intimate body language to confuse you into thinking they care, only to withdraw it suddenly, leaving you uncertain and emotionally vulnerable. The tone of voice is another powerful tool in nonverbal gaslighting. Narcissists are adept at using subtle changes in tone to convey meaning without ever needing to say anything directly. As you're helpless to figure out what to say, they are constrained to construct a voice in their head, which conveys emotions like love. Money is extremely valuable. They might speak in a sarcastic, condescending tone, or use a cold, dismissive tone that leaves you feeling belittled or invalidated. They may also use silence as a weapon, giving you the silent treatment to punish you for perceived wrongs. The silence is deafening and makes you question whether you are being unreasonable or whether the narcissist is genuinely upset. This nonverbal cue can leave you in a state of emotional limbo, not knowing where you stand or what you should do to fix the situation. Physical proximity is another tactic used by narcissists to gaslight through nonverbal cues. They may purposely invade your personal space to assert dominance or control, making you feel uncomfortable or vulnerable. Alternatively, they may maintain an exaggerated physical distance, making you feel isolated or rejected. By playing with the proximity between you, they manipulate the emotional tone of the interaction, making you feel either overly controlled or completely ignored. This shift in physical closeness can leave you second-guessing your own emotional responses, wondering whether you're being too sensitive or whether the narcissist's behavior is truly meant to hurt you. Nonverbal gaslighting is also evident in narcissists' use of mirroring or mimicking your behavior. In some cases, they will subtly copy your movements, speech patterns, or gestures to create a false sense of rapport. At first, this can make you feel like you are in sync with them, building trust and emotional connection. However, over time, they will twist this mirroring into a weapon, using your own behaviors and reactions against you. For example, they may mimic your tone of voice or body language during a conflict, only to later accuse you of being the one who is overly emotional or irrational. This form of manipulation not only disorients you, but also makes you feel as though your emotions are somehow wrong or out of control, further reinforcing their dominance. The narcissist's use of nonverbal cues can also be seen in their ability to manipulate the atmosphere of a room without saying anything. They may subtly change the energy in the space through their posture, facial expressions, or presence. For instance, they might make everyone feel tense by crossing their arms and staring at the floor, creating an invisible barrier that prevents meaningful communication. Alternatively, they may create an atmosphere of warmth and affection when they want something from you, using their nonverbal cues to draw you in and make you feel special. This inconsistency in their behavior keeps you emotionally on edge, unsure of what to expect, and always trying to read between the lines to figure out their true intentions. When confronted about their nonverbal manipulation, narcissists are adept at denying any ill intent. They may claim that they didn't mean to give you a cold stare, or that their body language was simply a reflection of their mood, not aimed at you personally. These denials force you to question your own perceptions and interpretation of the situation. Over time, you begin to doubt yourself and your ability to accurately read social cues, leaving you in a constant state of uncertainty and emotional vulnerability. The narcissist's denial of their nonverbal cues serves to further gaslight you, making you feel like you are the one who is wrong, or imagining things. In the end, gaslighting through nonverbal cues is an insidious form of emotional manipulation that leaves the target feeling confused, disoriented, and unsure of their own perceptions. The narcissist's ability to control the emotional dynamics of a situation without uttering a word gives them immense power. Their use of eye contact, facial expressions, body language, and tone can create a web of emotional confusion, making it difficult for you to understand what is really happening or how to respond. Through this nonverbal manipulation, the narcissist maintains control over the relationship while you are left trying to make sense of the emotional turmoil they've created. The power of presence is a subtle yet powerful tool that narcissists use to control and influence those around them. Unlike the more overt tactics of manipulation and domination, the power of presence works through an emotional and psychological force that leaves others feeling overwhelmed, overshadowed, or diminished in some way. This tactic doesn't necessarily require words or direct actions. Instead, it relies on the ability to take up space in the emotional or mental landscape of those around them. A narcissist's presence can dominate a room, a conversation, or a relationship without the need for any overt commands or demands. It's an almost intangible force that leaves people feeling small, insignificant, or constantly striving to match the energy that the narcissist projects. One of the most effective aspects of the narcissist's presence is their ability to command attention without effort. They walk into a room and immediately shift the focus onto themselves. Whether it's through their physical appearance, their body language, or the way they carry themselves, they exude a sense of importance that can't be ignored. They understand how to project an aura of confidence or superiority that demands attention, making it difficult for others to feel like they can compete for the spotlight. This dominant presence is often built on a foundation of self-centeredness, as the narcissist believes that their needs and desires should always come first, and that the world should revolve around them. The energy they project fills the space, leaving others to either conform to their expectations or shrink back into the background. The power of presence also plays into the narcissist's ability to control the emotional atmosphere in a room. They can use their body language, posture, and facial expressions to create an emotional environment that serves their needs. If they want to elicit a sense of awe, they may stand tall, maintain a confident posture, and exude charisma. If they want to intimidate, they may make sharp, commanding eye contact or use an imposing stance to unsettle those around them. I said there's 97.6 million people in the world inside each one of those. If they want to manipulate others into feeling guilty or apologetic, they may lower their body language, avoid eye contact, and appear distant or upset. In this way, the narcissist uses their presence to manipulate the emotions of others without a single word being spoken. Another aspect of the narcissist's presence is the way they make others feel. In their presence, people often feel a sense of inadequacy or insecurity. Narcissists have a unique ability to make those around them feel like they're always in competition with an impossible standard. Their presence can create an emotional vacuum where others feel like they are constantly trying to catch up or prove themselves worthy. They might subtly imply that you are not living up to their expectations, making you feel unimportant or unworthy of their attention. This psychological pressure can lead to feelings of self-doubt and confusion as you are left questioning your worth in relation to their seemingly superior presence. The narcissist's presence also creates a sense of emotional chaos for those around them. They often fluctuate between extremes, exuding warmth and affection one moment, only to pull away or become cold and distant the next. This emotional inconsistency makes it difficult for others to understand where they stand. One minute, the narcissist may act as if they care deeply about you, showering you with praise and attention. The next, they may become aloof or dismissive, leaving you feeling neglected or abandoned. This back and forth dynamic can keep you emotionally off balance, never quite knowing where you stand, and always trying to regain their favor. The power of this presence is rooted in its ability to keep others guessing and emotionally entangled, always striving for the warmth and validation they received in the past. What makes the power of presence so effective is its ability to subtly influence the behavior of others without the need for direct confrontation. Narcissists don't need to raise their voice or issue explicit commands to assert dominance. Their mere presence can cause others to defer to them, seek their approval, or constantly try to please them. People might go out of their way to ensure that the narcissist is happy, even at the expense of their own needs and desires. The narcissist, in turn, feeds off this constant need for validation and attention, perpetuating a cycle where their presence continues to dominate and influence the emotional dynamics of the relationship. In relationships, the narcissist's presence can be overwhelming in a more personal sense. They use their influence to shape the way you view yourself and the world around you. If they feel threatened or insecure, they may use their presence to make you feel small or insignificant, thereby maintaining control over the emotional atmosphere. They might make you feel as though you are always in the wrong or that your opinions and needs don't matter. At the same time, they might use their presence to charm or seduce you into thinking that they are the only one who truly understands you, creating an emotional dependence on them. This emotional manipulation through presence reinforces the idea that you need them in your life in order to feel complete or validated. The narcissist's ability to manipulate through presence is particularly insidious because it leaves others questioning their own emotions and perceptions. It can be difficult to pinpoint exactly why you feel the way you do around a narcissist. You may find yourself constantly second-guessing your feelings, unsure whether you are being overly sensitive or whether something is actually wrong. The narcissist's presence often shifts the focus away from your own emotional needs, making you feel as though you are the one who is flawed or irrational. Over time, this erodes your sense of self as you begin to internalize their perception of you and start viewing yourself through the narcissist's lens. When a narcissist enters a room, they have an uncanny ability to make everyone else feel like background noise. They create an environment where the spotlight is always on them, whether through overt actions or subtle cues. They manipulate others into orbiting around them, always striving to gain their approval or to maintain their favor. The power of their presence is often not about what they say or do, but about the emotional and psychological space they occupy. It is a force that commands attention, influences emotions, and creates a psychological dynamic where others are left questioning their own value in the face of the narcissist's apparent superiority. Creating a cycle of validation is one of the most powerful tactics a narcissist uses to control and manipulate those around them. The essence of this cycle lies in the narcissist's ability to consistently demand, receive, and rely on validation from others, while ensuring that others become emotionally dependent on providing this validation. It's a never-ending loop where the narcissist feeds off the admiration, praise, and attention they receive, while others are subtly conditioned to perpetuate the cycle in an attempt to maintain the narcissist's approval. The narcissist's need for constant validation is driven by their deep-rooted insecurity, yet they disguise it as self-assurance, often making others believe that their need for admiration is legitimate and that it must be met at all costs. At the beginning of the cycle, the narcissist often presents themselves as confident, charismatic, and self-sufficient, projecting an image of perfection that appears to need no validation. However, this image is nothing more than a carefully crafted facade. Beneath the surface, the narcissist harbors a deep sense of inadequacy and an insatiable need for external validation to affirm their worth. They may offer praise, charm, and affection in the early stages of a relationship, drawing people in with their apparent confidence and likability. This creates an illusion of balance, where the narcissist appears to be giving just as much as they receive. In reality, the praise and affection are strategic tools designed to elicit admiration and affection in return. The narcissist's next move is to create a sense of emotional dependency in others. Once they have drawn someone in, they begin to subtly manipulate their emotional responses by offering intermittent validation. This means that the narcissist will provide occasional affirmations or rewards, but only when they deem it necessary to keep the other person hooked. The inconsistency of the validation causes confusion, making the recipient of the narcissist's praise feel as though they must work harder to earn the next affirmation. The narcissist might praise someone lavishly one moment, only to criticize or withdraw their approval the next. This creates emotional instability in the other person, as they find themselves trying to navigate this unpredictable cycle of praise and criticism. The person on the receiving end feels a sense of accomplishment when they receive validation, but the intermittent nature of it makes them anxious, constantly striving to receive more. This cycle of validation leads to emotional exhaustion. Those caught in the narcissist's web are often left feeling drained as they begin to focus more on maintaining the narcissist's approval than on their own well-being. As the narcissist continues to withdraw validation or offer it selectively, the person being manipulated becomes more desperate for acknowledgement, scrambling to meet the narcissist's ever-shifting expectations. This desperation often clouds their judgment as they begin to see the narcissist's validation as the only source of self-worth. The narcissist expertly exploits this by amplifying their demands for praise, affection, or admiration, making the other person feel as though they can never do enough to gain their approval. The narcissist thrives on this dynamic, using the cycle of validation to reinforce their sense of superiority. They are constantly feeding off the admiration and adulation of others while leaving their emotional needs unfulfilled. Even when they receive praise, it is never enough. They constantly seek more, demanding more praise, attention, or admiration to fill the void inside them. This continuous craving for validation keeps the narcissist in a state of perpetual need, ensuring that the cycle never ends. Even when their followers or loved ones provide validation, it is always fleeting and insufficient in the eyes of the narcissist, pushing them to continue seeking new sources of admiration. One of the most dangerous aspects of this cycle is how it affects the emotional well-being of those involved. The person providing the validation becomes conditioned to believe that their worth is tied to the narcissist's approval. They may begin to neglect their own needs and desires, focusing instead on pleasing the narcissist and keeping the cycle of validation intact. Over time, this dynamic leads to emotional burnout and confusion, as the person becomes increasingly unsure of their own identity and worth. Their sense of self becomes distorted, and they may begin to question their own value, always feeling as though they must prove themselves to be worthy of love and respect. The narcissist, of course, never recognizes the emotional toll their demands for validation take on others. They continue to perpetuate the cycle, taking and taking without ever giving back. The validation they receive becomes an insatiable hunger, one that they can never fully satisfy. The narcissist might use manipulation, guilt, or other emotional tactics to keep the cycle going. For example, they may accuse others of being ungrateful or disloyal when the validation begins to dwindle, using these accusations to reassert their dominance and bring the person back into the fold. The narcissist may also employ tactics such as giving a token compliment or affection after a period of withdrawal, ensuring that the person feels compelled to continue seeking validation from them. As the cycle of validation continues, the narcissist's emotional power grows stronger. They gain control over the other person's emotions, making them more dependent and less able to function independently. This is a gradual process, one that often happens so slowly that the person being manipulated may not even realize how much of their emotional energy is being drained. What started as a seemingly harmless desire for approval evolves into a deep emotional entanglement where the person feels unable to escape the need to meet the narcissist's expectations. Their identity becomes entwined with the narcissist's praise and approval, making it difficult for them to see beyond the cycle. The creation of a cycle of validation is not just about the narcissist seeking attention. It's about securing power and control. Through this process, the narcissist shapes and molds the emotional world of those around them, making them dependent on the narcissist for emotional sustenance. The cycle continues, and the narcissist remains at the center, always in control, while those around them are left chasing an ever-elusive sense of validation. The person caught in this web of manipulation may begin to feel like they are losing themselves as their identity becomes consumed by the need for the narcissist's approval. The cycle of validation is a cruel trap, one that reinforces the narcissist's emotional dominance while leaving others emotionally drained and uncertain of their worth.